In the bustling streets of Los Angeles, where the gleam of Hollywood stars contrasted with the shadows of real life, Karen embarked on her life journey. The small, worn-out house in the city's humblest neighborhood echoed with the whispers of a fractured family, punctuated by the occasional distant sound of sirens. Karen was a child with bright eyes and an innocent smile, who at the age of 5 already carried the weight of the world on her shoulders. Her father, a man with a tired expression and faltering steps, would leave every morning with a weak wave. Each goodbye was a farewell, until the day he walked out the door and never returned. Her mother, weakened by psychological disorders, clung to the walls of reality as if they were slippery. "Karen, my little one, the world out there is a whirlwind," she murmured, while the girl squeezed her hand, trying to understand the storm in her eyes. The arrival of a stepfather, a man with slurred speech and the scent of alcohol, added a new note to Karen's dissonant life. He was an opportunist, gliding through life like a shadow, taking advantage of the vulnerability of that fragmented family. Dark nights were illuminated only by the dim light of the television and the hushed arguments. "You're worth nothing, not even the air you breathe," the stepfather's voice echoed, while little Karen huddled in a corner, clutching her knees. She grew up in the cracks of a childhood marked by abandonment and adversity. But in her chest beat a resilient heart. The exchanged glances with her mother, in moments of clarity, were a silent reminder that amidst the chaos, there was love. "We'll be okay, Karen. You're my light," her mother whispered. And Karen believed. Every dawn in Los Angeles brought the promise of a new day, and Karen, with her eyes fixed on the stars above, dreamed of a future where light would overcome the shadows, where the voice of the heart would silence the echoes of the past. And so, in the city of fallen angels, Karen forged her wings. At the age of 16, Karen's hair acquired streaks of independence, and her eyes the determination of someone seeking refuge away from a tumultuous home. With her soul soaked by life's storms, she found in the walls of a local cafe the foundation to build her future. "A cappuccino and a croissant, please," customers would request, and Karen served with a smile that hid the scars of her soul. Seeking in coffee cups the strength to transcend the shadows of the past. It was at an autumn dance, with leaves dancing to the wind's tune, that Alex entered Karen's life. He had a charming smile and eyes that promised shelter. "You're like autumn, full of colors and mysteries," Alex whispered as they both got lost in the melody of the night. Love blossomed amidst dances and laughter. But the awakening of a new life within her brought storms. Karen, with tear-filled eyes, revealed, "Alex, we're going to have a baby." The silence that followed was interrupted by Alex's escape, leaving behind only echoes of empty promises, pain, and determination. Dancing in Karen's heart, "My child, you will be the light on our journey," she promised to little Peter, who was growing in her womb. The world could be cruel, but Karen was determined to be a safe harbor for her son. Peter was born on a starry night, and Karen saw in him the constellation of her dreams. She worked tirelessly, balancing shifts and sleepless nights, weaving with threads of hope a future for Peter. "My little one, you will have the stars," Karen whispered, cradling her son under the Los Angeles sky. Karen's love was a beacon in the darkness, guiding Peter through life's challenges. Together, mother and son wrote a story of overcoming, where each page was a step towards the light. And so, amidst coffee and stars, Karen and Peter built their universe in the eternal dance of love and resilience. Karen always cherished the Los Angeles sunset, but even in the sunniest city in the country, there were dark days, especially for Karen. With calloused hands, she counted the saved coins for Peter's golden dream. "My dear, every penny is a brick for your castle," she would say, with eyes full of hope and unwavering love. Peter, with the vigor of youth pulsing in his veins, was a reflection of his mother's resilient brightness. He grew up immersed in the values of determination and altruism, and law became the compass that guided him. "Mother, I will fight for justice, just as you fought for us," Peter promised, his eyes reflecting the fiery conviction in his heart. The day of departure for New York came like a breeze of autumn laden with promises and farewells. The city that never sleeps beckoned to Peter with its twinkling lights as he entered King Geo with a partial scholarship, the result of Karen's intertwined savings and dreams. Remember, son, the stars in your sky are infinite. Reach for them, Karen whispered as the farewell hug carried the longing of immeasurable love. The distance between the skyscrapers of New York and the palm trees of Los Angeles was more than mere miles. It was an ocean of longing and memories. Karen, in the silence of her home, felt the echo of Peter's footsteps and the melody of his laughter, while the phone brought only fragments of the life he was building. Mom, New York is amazing, but the hustle is real. Peter's voice was both a balm and a reminder of the distance between them. The leaves of the trees danced in the Los Angeles wind, and Karen, amid the ballet of longing, found strength in the certainty that the sacrifice was worth it. Peter was forging his path among laws and ideals, and she, the architect of his dreams, continued to build brick by brick the golden future she had promised. Longing was a constant companion, but Peter's light illuminated the horizon, promising a dawn of achievements and reunions. Years passed, and at the New York Law School, the eagerly awaited day of Peter's graduation was approaching. Laughter and conversations of young lawyers and their influential guests echoed in the brightly lit halls, all eagerly anticipating the ceremony that symbolized the beginning of new chapters. In Los Angeles, Karen, sitting in her rocking chair, gazed at the sunset, a mix of pride and sadness warming her heart. There was no invitation, no place for her at that illustrious ceremony. Karen had learned about the party date through third parties. She and Peter were distant. She believed it was just a phase. Karen sighed, tears tracing paths on her face aged by struggle. In love, Peter, enveloped in the buzz of voices and the anticipation of the future, felt a knot in his chest. The choice not to invite Karen weighed on his conscience. But the fear of judgments and whispered comments kept him firm in his decision. Mother, I apologize, but here, it's a world of appearances, Peter thought as he clutched his diploma with trembling hands. But even reluctantly, he did not invite his mother, and with time, the distance between them grew ever wider. That night, as the New York sky shimmered with distant stars, Karen, in her humble home, lit a candle and prayed for Peter's success and happiness. May the path you tread, my son, be illuminated and just, even if I cannot walk beside you, she murmured, her words fading in the gentle breeze of Los Angeles. Even after this absurd act, she continued to love him deeply. The years passed like the pages of a book, each one bringing its own stories and lessons. Peter, embarking on a promising career, while Karen, with the strength that characterized her, continued her journey, fueled by hope and unconditional love for her son, even in his absence and silence. Peter, with the same determination that brought him to the classrooms of New York Law School, rose to the highest echelons of New York's legal scene. The spotlight followed him, and in the arms of the city that never sleeps, he found Emma, a businesswoman whose radiance rivaled the lights of Times Square. In a dazzling ceremony, they joined their destinies, becoming the golden couple of high society. Halls echoed with whispers of admiration and respect that Peter and Emma commanded. However, far from the glare of skyscrapers and the applause of the elite, Karen, with her hair now silvered by the wisdom of the years, found herself in a dilemma. The days of struggle had left their marks, and her retirement barely covered the most basic needs. Peter, she whispered hopefully, my son, it's to you that I must turn now. The news of Karen's need reached Peter and Emma's ears, like a distant echo of a past life. Emma, looking at her husband, said hesitantly, Peter, I understand your mother's situation, but you know the impact this can have on our life. Peter, with eyes clouded by the memory of the woman who had given him everything, replied, Emma, she's my mother. I can't leave her helpless. Reluctantly, Emma agreed to Karen's arrival in a luxurious residence, but the matriarch's presence brought palpable discomfort to the home. Emma's looks grew colder, and dinners once filled with laughter now hosted prolonged silences. Karen, sensing Emma's dissatisfaction, whispered in her room, "Peter, I didn't want to be a burden to you, but life has brought me here." And Peter's heart, heavy, thought, "It's a difficult decision, Peter, but sometimes love demands sacrifices." Emma replied, her hand lightly touching his arm, "Don't you love me, Peter?" "It's either me or her," Emma said, in a whirlwind of emotions. Peter devised a plan with a heavy heart. He organized the documents, citing Karen's mental instability. Using the power that his marriage to Emma provided him, he even managed to obtain medical evaluations. With each signature, a part of him shattered, but Emma's words echoed in his mind, "Love demands sacrifices." Karen, unaware of the shadows forming around her, continued to wander the hallways of the house, her gaze vacant, her heart longing for a sign of love from the son who once filled her days with the light of affection. The cold bluish light of dawn seeped through the cracks and the curtains, revealing to Karen an unfamiliar environment full of shadows and whispers. The smell of disinfectant and the distant sound of hurried footsteps woke her up completely. "Where am I?" Karen murmured, her voice trembling as she sat up in the uncomfortable bed, surrounded by cold white walls. A nurse with a gentle demeanor and a penetrating gaze entered the room, offering Karen a comforting smile. "Good morning, Karen. My name is Juliana. You're in a nursing home. Your son, Peter, thought it would be the best for you," Juliana explained, holding Karen's hand gently. Karen, her eyes welling up with tears, couldn't believe what she was hearing. "Peter did this? My own son admitted me here," she exclaimed, her heart tightening with a mixture of sadness and disbelief. "He claimed that you have mental issues, Karen, but I can see that you're perfectly sane," Juliana replied, gently squeezing Karen's hand. Upon hearing Juliana's words, Karen felt a sharp pang of betrayal. How could Peter, for whom she had shed tears and sweat, do something like this? "I fought so hard for him, Juliana. I sacrificed everything so that he could have a bright future," Karen confessed, tears rolling down her weathered face. Juliana, moved by Karen's pain, felt an immediate connection with her. She, too, had faced hardships in life and knew what it was like to be abandoned by those she loved. "I know how you feel, Karen. I've also been betrayed by those who should have loved me," Juliana confided, her eyes meeting Karen's in mutual understanding. As Karen faced the dark days in the nursing home, Juliana became her light. The nurse was determined to help Karen, shocked by Peter's cruelty. Together, they formed a silent alliance, built on the ruins of betrayal and strengthened by the hope of better days. Under the cover of night, the corridors of the clinic echoed with the silent sound of deep breaths from the sleeping patients. Juliana, with her racing heart, cast cautious glances as she made her way toward Karen's room. "Karen, it's time. Put these on," Juliana whispered, handing Karen discreet clothing and a cap to help conceal her face. Karen, though anxious, felt a spark of hope igniting in her chest. "Juliana, I don't know how to thank you for this. You're risking so much for me," Karen said hurriedly, getting dressed. Juliana, with a determined smile, replied, "No one deserves to be here against their will, especially someone as kind as you." Karen, with synchronized steps and controlled breaths, they moved through the shadows of the building, avoiding curious glances and the bright lights of the hallways. Juliana had meticulously planned every detail, studied the security guards' routes, and the blind spots of the surveillance cameras. "Stay behind me and don't make a sound," instructed Juliana as they opened a side door, leading to a dark courtyard. The night was cold, and the wind rustled through the leaves of the trees, but freedom had never seemed sweeter. Karen felt her heart pounding in her ears as they ran toward Juliana's parked car. "Get in quickly, we have to get out of here before they notice," Juliana said, starting the car and driving away cautiously. The clinic's lights disappeared in the rearview mirror, and a sense of relief washed over Karen. "Do you have a safe place for us?" Karen asked, her gaze fixed on the road ahead. Juliana nodded. We're going to my house. You'll stay there until we find a permanent place for you." As the sleeping city passed by them, Juliana and Karen shared a comfortable silence, knowing that the journey ahead would be challenging but determined to face any obstacles that came their way together. Juliana's kindness and courage had ignited a glimmer of hope in Karen, and together they were heading toward an uncertain but free future. In a modest and cozy house, Juliana and Karen sat in the living room, a pot of hot tea between them, filling the air with its comforting aroma. The atmosphere was charged with a mix of confidences and silent comfort as they both unraveled their life stories. Karen, with moist eyes, shared, "I never thought my own son, for whom I gave everything, would abandon me like that. The taste of betrayal is more bitter than I ever imagined." Juliana, with understanding in her eyes, gently squeezed Karen's hand. "Karen, life sometimes presents us with unimaginable challenges, but it also brings people who help us bear the pain." Juliana shared her own story of struggles and disappointments, making Karen feel less alone. "You know, Karen, I've faced difficult times too. Loneliness and betrayal are not strangers to me, but I believe that every person we meet is a chapter in our book of life." In the warmth of those conversations, the bond between them strengthened, woven by threads of empathy and mutual understanding. Karen, opening up to Juliana, felt a mixture of relief and sadness. "Juliana, your friendship means the world to me. Amidst all this storm, you have been my beacon." Juliana smiled, offering a supportive shoulder and words of encouragement. "Karen, you're already an inspiration. Your determination and kindness are contagious. Together, we can help others and show them that there is hope even in the toughest situations." And so, despite the tragic turn in her life, Karen found in Juliana not just a friend, but an ally. They shared long conversations, laughter, and tears, further strengthening their bond. Juliana's house became a refuge for Karen, a place where she could be herself without judgment. Karen, though bearing the scars of a great injustice, was determined to turn her pain into purpose. She wanted to be the voice for those who had none, to show that even in the darkness, light could prevail. With Juliana by her side, she felt she could weather any storm. It was a journey of healing and rediscovery. Karen, supported by Juliana's friendship and solidarity, was taking the first steps toward a fresh start. As the sun set, symbolizing the end of one day, Karen saw in it the promise of a new dawn, full of possibilities and hope. Karen began to cultivate flowers, with each petal and stem representing a new beginning. These flowers, she thought, are a symbol of renewal, of hope. Unfortunately, Juliana was fired because the clinic's administration suspected that she had helped Karen in her escape. Upon learning of her dismissal, she faced the challenge with the same courage she had shown when helping Karen. "Don't worry, Karen," she said, squeezing her friend's hands. "We'll find a way. Together, we are stronger." Juliana then decided to look for a job, but with little success. So Karen decided to hit the streets to try to make some money. Thinking about everything Juliana had done for her gave Karen the strength to find some way to earn money. It was this strength, she thought, that led Karen to the streets, offering her flowers with a determined smile. The afternoon unfolded with kind words and friendly hands, exchanging small amounts for her colorful arrangements. At the end of the day, Karen felt a lightness in her pocket and an even lighter heart. "I can't wait to tell Juliana," she thought excitedly. "We will overcome this together." She had sold almost all of the flowers, however, fate, with its cruel unpredictability, charted another course. The screeching sound of brakes, the sudden impact, the darkness. Karen lay on the ground, the flowers scattered like her uncertain future. Upon receiving the news, Juliana felt a wave of sadness and despair wash over her. She rushed to the hospital, her thoughts in turmoil between guilt and anguish. By Karen's bedside, she held her friend's hand, her eyes filled with tears. "Karen, you are not alone. I will be here for you, just as you were there for me." The room was filled with silence, interrupted only by the monotonous sounds of the medical equipment. But in Juliana's heart, a silent determination grew. She would fight for her friend, be the strength Karen needed, face the storm until they saw the sunrise together again. Sadness was palpable, but amid the pain, the seed of hope was sprouting. The journey would be arduous, but Karen and Juliana, united by the unbreakable bond of friendship and solidarity, would confront the unknown, ready to transform shadows into light. With a heavy heart, Juliana moved slowly through the house she had shared with Karen. Every object, every portrait, evoked memories, some sweet, others bitter, of the woman who had faced so many adversities with dignity. Tears streamed down Juliana's face as she carefully packed Karen's belongings, longing a constant presence amidst the melancholy. Juliana found a meticulously written manuscript. Karen's words revealed a raw and emotional narrative of her life. So she was writing her story, Juliana murmured, her eyes scanning the lines filled with pain and hope. With a new sense of purpose, Juliana decided that Karen's story would not be forgotten. Karen, your voice will be heard, your story will inspire others, she vowed, determined to publish the book. The process was arduous, but Juliana's determination was unwavering. The manuscript, now titled Flowers in the Shadows, the Karen story, reached the shelves, and Karen's words touched the hearts of many. The book became a resounding success, Karen's poignant narrative resonating with every reader, illuminating the shadows of adversity with the light of resilience. Inevitably, the echo of Karen's story reached Peter's circle of friends. The pages revealed the unvarnished truth, and voices that were once friendly became severe, repudiating Peter's actions. How could you? They questioned, their disapproval weighing heavily on him. Peter, confronted with the reality he had tried to conceal, felt the weight of shame and remorse. He had betrayed his own mother, the woman who, even after death, managed to touch the lives of so many, making history with her truth and courage. Karen, in the immortality of her words, continued to inspire and challenge, and Juliana, observing the lasting influence of her friend, felt a mixture of sadness and pride. You made history, Karen, and I will be here honoring your memory, sharing your light. Thank you for joining us today on Deep Stories. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video.